Hello. Kevin. Yes, Blake Dean again. Yeah, look, I can't talk right now. I was wondering if I could meet you sometime tomorrow.
Oh, there you go, Eddie. We'll see you next time. Oh, g'day, love.
Hi.
How's Don?
Well, he's still stable. We'll know more in the morning.
Is Bobby still there?
You've been forgiven.
Oh, that's a relief.
She feels as bad as you do, actually.
So you think it'll be okay if I drop that basket of fruit around tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, I think she'd really like that.
Good, good. Will you come with me?
No, you'll have to go on your own, love. I'm going to see Blake.
Oh, Alice, I've already told you. He's no longer our concern.
He's in trouble. Adam just got back. He's worried. Evidently, Les is really giving Blake the runaround.
Yeah, well, it serves him right.
How can you say that? Don't you care?
Care? Alice, Blake stopped being our responsibility when he moved in with that bludger.
Alf, I know that you're hurt, but Blake needs us.
No, he doesn't. He's got his own man.
Oh, for goodness sake, stop being so pig-headed and think about somebody else for a change. I'm going to the city and that's that.
Oh, that's lovely, that is. So you're going to put Blake's feelings ahead of mine. Well, it's nice to know where I stand.
Later this evening in Beckendale, it's Joe's birthday, but have Jack and Sarah forgotten? And Elizabeth questions Frank about some invoices in Emmerdale at 7 o'clock.
The Home and Away phone line is now open, featuring interviews with the stars and updates on the story. The number to call is 0891 700 146.
Why do you whisper?
Billy Hodge, it seems, is keen to make a complete statement. If Billy begins to bare his soul to you, he'll be with you for the rest of your lives.
You just don't know what you started.
Whispering grass.
Make sure Billy Hodge doesn't take you out of your depth.
Telltale starts June the 10th.
Shortly, the day's news from John Suchet at ITN, followed by Meridian Tonight. That's after 3 minutes.
This week is Volunteers Week, and tonight on 3 Minutes, Sue Hancock tells us how her life changed when she joined her local volunteer bureau.
6 months ago, I was slightly lost. I was very lonely. I needed something in my life. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was capable of. I didn't know how I felt about myself. I needed the opportunity to do something. I didn't have the nerve or the courage to go out and find a paid job. For me, volunteering has changed my life. I love it. It's a great joy. We get all kinds of people in here, from retired bank managers, redundant headmasters, young unemployed people, people who have been bereaved and need to fill a gap in their lives left by their loved ones. We get people who are desperate just to do something for someone else. The feeling you get from volunteering is walking into somewhere, maybe being afraid, maybe feeling that you know, you're not going to be useful, that you're not going to be of any help to anyone. But when you've actually been there for a short while, you can come away with a wonderful feeling of satisfaction, feeling that you've got a reason to get up for the next day. a feeling that maybe you can change direction in your life, that a new career can come out of volunteering, that there's an opportunity to be trained in something different, that life as a volunteer has so much to offer that you didn't ever realise was there. There's no need to be frightened of it, there's no need to feel that you're going to be rejected. The world needs you, the state we're in, you know, we have to do something for other people. They need you, you need them. Why not try it?
If you'd like to find out more about volunteering, then please write to 3 Minutes, P.O. Box 330, Southampton, SO9 7RU.
Marvellous. So you'll be here in 5 minutes? Generous chunks of Belgian chocolate, whole hazelnuts.
Ooh, boasters. My favourite. It's a melt in the mouth.
Absolutely.
McVitie's boasters. It's what's in them that makes them.
Last summer, Ford launched a new way to a new Ford, Options. It's now the most popular new way to a new car in Britain. This summer, Options is more widely available than ever. For all the information on Options, the new special models and special offers available this summer delivered to you at home, get the summer blueprint for a new Ford. Call 0800 111 222 for your free copy now.
Tonight, dirty beach alert. Half a dozen southeast resorts have still failed to clean up. Plus, the children who risk permanent injury at the hands of cowboy karate coaches.
From ITN headquarters, the early evening news with John Suchet.
Hello. The Princess of Wales talked today about mothers' little helpers. Not their children, though, but the tranquilizers millions of women take to get them through the day. In some cases, said the Princess, the tranquilizers caused greater problems than they solved, bringing with them terrible dependency. And she offered this advice to harassed mothers. It's normal not being able to cope all the time.
It seemed a highly personal speech delivered by a princess clearly moved by her subject. She spoke about the anguish of mental illness, of the deeper and darker depression experienced by women trapped by the life they're leading.
As their world closes in on them, their self-esteem evaporates into a haze of loneliness and desperation as they retreat further and further from those who could help them. Many women and men turn to alcohol to numb their pain of their despair. But because it is seen in women as less acceptable to admit to a dependence on alcohol, it often goes unnoticed.
The princess, who's widely reported to have been under severe mental stress herself during the breakup of her marriage, talked about a pill for every ill.
For decades, tranquilizers and sleeping pills and antidepressants have been given to generations of women, 3 times as many as to men. These pills, these mothers' little helpers, have left a legacy of millions of women locked into a terrible torment, doomed to a life of dependence from which there is still very little help to escape.
Ending by saying women have a right to peace of mind, the princess's speech is bound to open up the debate about an illness which too often goes unrecognised and untreated.
Our next report. Hospital suspends worker with nurse Allitt's condition. Shells kill footballers and spectators in Sarajevo. And the Duchess arrives in Scotland to holiday with the Duke. A A hospital care assistant suffering from a similar psychiatric disorder as nurse Beverly Allitt was suspended today. Sharon Clarke had worked with adult mental patients in Portsmouth. The hospital had known of her condition for 2 years.
26-year-old Sharon Clarke, whose story filled front pages this morning, started work at St James's Hospital 6 years ago. As an auxiliary nurse, she was based on Hambrook Ward, looking after elderly, mentally ill patients and recognised as a caring member of staff.
She's very kind. She's a really nice girl from what I saw of her.
Hospital administrators say that in 1991, Mrs Clarke reported her illness to them. They consulted her psychiatrist, who said she posed no threat to her patients.
She normally works on her ward with a qualified nurse, an enrolled nurse. She's not a qualified nurse, so she does not get called upon to do technical nursing procedures.
But many of today's visitors to the hospital were dismayed that Mrs Clarke had continued to work here.
I think more checks should be made after this Beverly Allitt case. I think it's totally abhorrent. If a hospital isn't a safe place to put your loved ones, where is?
The hospital say they're investigating allegations that Mrs Clarke's illness had already made her a threat to her 4-year-old son. In the meantime, they've decided that Mrs Clarke should be suspended whilst further medical checks are carried out. Robert Hall, ITN, Portsmouth.
Youngsters playing football became the latest casualties of the bloodshed in Bosnia today. 2 shells exploded on a makeshift playing field in Sarajevo, killing at least 11 people. Scores more were wounded. The picture quality in this report is not good. We apologise.
The soccer match had just kicked off at 11 o'clock this morning when the 2 shells landed amongst the players. More than 100 spectators had turned out to watch the game, believing the area in the Muslim-held suburb of Dobrinja to be relatively safe. It's surrounded by high-rise apartment blocks, but in this precision attack, they gave no protection. Scores of wounded were taken to hospital with appalling injuries. Amongst them were children and footballers. Appeals were broadcast for blood donors to come forward to help the surgeons in their fight to keep as many as possible alive. It was the worst attack on civilians in Sarajevo since 20 people queuing for bread were killed by mortars in May last year. 2 days ago, 1,500 shells crashed into Sarajevo as Bosnian Serbs launched a counterattack to halt a Muslim army advance. Tonight, at the scene of the latest killings, the match ball remained on the blood-soaked asphalt pitch. Terry Lloyd, ITN, Central Bosnia.
2 Danish drivers were killed in Bosnia today when their food convoy was hit by artillery shells. Their interpreter also died and 4 other Danes were wounded. The convoy was under British escort, but no British soldiers were hurt. It follows the weekend killing of 3 Italian civilians.
Emerging from a tunnel, the UN aid convoy drivers stood little chance as what's believed to be Serbian artillery opened up on them. 2 Danish drivers died trying to bring aid to the besieged northern Bosnian city of Maglaj. There were no injuries among its British military escort, although their vehicles sustained some damage. It was believed UN-escorted convoys enjoyed a degree of safety. Today, that belief was cruelly shattered. It's also raised fears among other UN convoy drivers ferrying aid through Bosnia. The risks facing independent aid convoys are even greater. This was chillingly illustrated by the murders of 3 Italians, whose convoy was hijacked by bandits who've made their base on a remote section of road near Gornji Vakuf in central Bosnia. Senior UN officers believe a renegade Muslim commander is their leader.
He seems a very hard man. I couldn't comment on his soldiering abilities, but he's a very hard man to negotiate with.
Today, the UN joined forces with regular Muslim and Croat soldiers to hunt him down. James Forlong, ITN, Vitez in central Bosnia.
Police in Lancashire believe a couple who disappeared 5 weeks ago were probably murdered and their bodies burnt. They found jewellery belonging to the couple near the remains of a fire in woods near Chorley. Howell Jones is there. Howell, what's the latest on the investigation?
Well, behind me you can see the remote part of woodland where police have made a breakthrough in this missing persons inquiry. Scorched jewellery belonging to Gary Pettit and Jean Larkin were found amongst the remains of a fierce forest fire. The couple are both in their 20s and were last seen alive 5 weeks ago today. Police believe Gary may have been involved in drug dealing, and the remains are now being examined by forensic scientists.
There have been
numerous samples taken from here, not only the contents, the complete contents of the fire, but also other samples which I'm not really prepared at this stage to go into graphic detail about. It could well be that human remains may well be found within the remnants of the fire.
And Hal, when will we know the results of those tests?
It'll be at least 2 days before the forensic scientists have had chance to look through the remains and come to their conclusions. But police from 4 forces in the UK are involved in this inquiry, and it'll be the end of the week before they know if they're dealing with a missing persons inquiry or a double murder inquiry.
Thank you, Hal. Guns and ammunition have been seized after 40 armed police swooped on a pub car park. The haul at Perry Barr in Birmingham included 7 semi-automatic handguns. Police believe the weapons were destined for loyalist terrorists in Northern Ireland. 2 men have been charged with firearms offences. Britain again stood alone in Europe today. The new Employment Secretary, David Hunt, abstained in the vote for a 48-hour maximum working week. The rest of the community voted for it. Britain vowed to fight the ruling in the courts, although it won't apply in Britain for another 10 years.
The first European meeting in his new job, and Employment Secretary David Hunt walked straight into a head-on clash with fellow community ministers. He first got his colleagues to water down their new rules on the length of the working week, then promised that he would ask the European Court whether the rest of the EC can impose this on Britain against its will.
Although we have drawn the teeth of the directive, that it does set a difficult precedent. We therefore decided to abstain and now to go to the European Court in order to test the validity of this directive.
Even if Britain loses in court, the new rules preventing people working more than 48 hours a week will not be introduced for at least 10 years. Factories like this metal plant in Slough will have to give staff minimum holidays and rest periods. But what had been worrying workers was losing overtime if their hours were restricted.
You have to do overtime to create a decent wage.
That'd be no good to us. I wouldn't be getting any money.
We got to do overtime to make good money.
Britain clearly feels that an important principle is at stake here, that if it doesn't stand and fight now, there will be further attempts by the community to introduce social legislation via the back door. James Mates, ITN, Luxembourg.
Police in North London hunting for the killer of 12-year-old Katrina Monk are still sifting through 200 tons of rubbish at a local incinerator plant. They're looking for Katrina's clothes.
Somewhere in this incineration plant may lie a crucial piece of evidence which would identify Katrina's killer. For the 3rd day running, police officers have sifted and searched through hundreds of tons of household refuse, trying to find the dead schoolgirl's missing clothing. The police are concerned the killer parcelled up Katrina's belongings and left them for refuse collection last Friday morning, several hours before her body was found at lunchtime. Detectives today also led specialist search teams along a railway line just 50 yards from the alleyway where Katrina's body was discovered. Her green school blazer, the one in this photograph, is missing. So too is her jacket, her shoulder bag and her shoes. The investigation team has still not ruled out the possibility the killer had an accomplice to help move the body and dispose of the missing clothing. If nothing is found here today, then this search will be extended. The police say it's of vital importance that they find Katrina's missing clothing. Scientific examination of them could lead to the identity of her killer. Colin Baker, ITN, Enfield.
After the bank holiday, the bank charges. 2 of the high street banks make changes today, which mean customers who get overdrawn every month will be charged more. To our business correspondent, Greg, which are the banks involved and why are they doing it?
Well, John, the 2 banks are NatWest and Midland. They say it's much more expensive to run the accounts of customers who get overdrawn on a regular basis, so they should pay more. And what they've done is moved from charging on a quarterly to a monthly basis. Here at NatWest, you used to pay £19 a quarter for an authorised overdraft. Now you pay £9 a month. So if you are one of their customers who gets overdrawn every month, you will pay more.
Now, is this paving the way for bank charges for everyone, debit or credit?
Well, the banks all say they have no plans at present to reintroduce bank charges for customers who stay in credit. But that doesn't mean that they won't eventually do it. In the present economic climate, it's much more difficult for the banks to make money, and most industry observers believe they will reintroduce charges for all, but maybe not for a year or 2.
Thank you, Greg. Health news. Technology that can reproduce a human smile may soon be able to benefit people needing plastic surgery. It's based on 3D computer graphics.
This is a computer image of a road accident victim. The injury above the eye, like in an ordinary X-ray, is visible, but unlike an X-ray, the three-dimensional image enables surgeons to know exactly where to operate. This is a life-size model of the computer image we've just seen. Doctors were able to use it to make a metal plate to fit the injury exactly. But now they say moving 3D images will help them further. Researchers say the latest development will help to diagnose problems with muscles and tissues not possible with two-dimensional techniques. Surgeons could even use the method to rehearse operations.
If you're going to build a motor car or a bridge, you have to make mathematical predictions of the outcome before you manufacture the part. Surgery must also move towards this. We must move towards mathematical prediction.
It's believed it'll lead to simpler and quicker plastic surgery. It could be in routine use in 2 years' time. Anya Sitharam, ITN, Central London.
Finally, the Duchess of York arrived at Balmoral this afternoon for a holiday with the royal family, including her husband, the Duke. As she flew into Aberdeen Airport, the Queen left to attend tomorrow's derby.
The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh left Royal Deeside this morning after a short bank holiday break, leaving the Balmoral estate clear today for a private reunion between the Duke and the Duchess of York. Arriving at the same airport at Aberdeen this afternoon on a scheduled flight, the Duchess was accompanied by her two daughters, the Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. Despite now leading separate lives, the Duke and the Duchess of York have been spending more time together recently. The Duke has been visiting Balmoral regularly at weekends while his ship is based at Rosyth. It was only last summer, though, that the Duchess was forced to cut short a holiday there with the Queen and the rest of the royal family. Photographs were published of her topless by a pool in the south of France with her financial advisor. Her return to Balmoral, though, to spend a family holiday with the Duke of York is being seen by some observers as a sign of growing warmth in their relations. A worker on the Balmoral estate said today, everyone is hoping this trip is more than just a get-together for the sake of their children.
The main news is that the Princess of Wales has called for harassed mothers to be treated with sympathy and understanding. Until 5:40 tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Hello, good evening. Well, now that we're into the month of June, this would seem like a good time to look back to the month of May and what rainfall we had. Now, if you think we had a lot of rain in the south and east, it was really nothing in comparison to further west and north. Take Manchester, for example, where they had nearly twice the amount of rainfall as normal, and Belfast heading for 2.5 times the monthly average for May. So quite a wet month there. Now, we're still not completely out of the woods yet, and as you'll see from tonight's wind flow chart, it is quite unsettled with an area of low pressure and frontal zones hanging about not too far away, and they're going to keep things quite unsettled during the next 24 hours or so. Now, back to tonight, we'll see the first sign of that unsettled weather creeping into the south of England as it crosses the Channel, and by tomorrow morning those showers will be affecting much of England and Wales, and some of them quite heavy and thundery too. For Scotland as well, it's another unsettled night with more persistent spells of rain, some of those quite heavy. But no problems temperature-wise tonight, between 10 and 12 degrees Celsius on average, but it could be a bit cooler than that in that northeastern corner where there'll be clear spells. Now, for the north of the country, tomorrow another unsettled day to come with persistent rain over northern Scotland, more scattered showers over Northern Ireland and southern Scotland, and some bright spells too, particularly in the west. For the rest of the country then, we're looking at scattered showers again over England and Wales. Again, some of those quite heavy and thundery, and those heavy and thundery showers will gradually travel northwards throughout the day. So temperatures tomorrow, another warm day to come, around 18 or 19 in the south, that's mid-60s Fahrenheit. It is going to be cooler than that on the east coast though because of the wind. That's it from me. Good evening.
If you want to make sure you're eating enough fibre, it's worth knowing there's as much fibre in 6 brown bread rolls as you'd find in just a single bowl of Kellogg's All Bran. Kellogg's All Bran, a great fibre provider.
It's the weekend, and this man has lost his traveller's checks. And so has he. He hadn't bought American Express traveller's checks, but this man insisted on them. So while this man would get a refund, but not quite yet, he just made one call to American Express, while he had to be patient. Why wait when independent research shows American Express provide the fastest weekend refunds almost anywhere in the world? American Express traveller's checks.
40 years ago tomorrow, the Queen came to the throne. Celebration or tragedy. Collect this valuable keepsake every day in the mirror and judge for yourself.
Open your eyes to a different kind of car. Stretch your imagination to espace versatility. Turn your thoughts to espace innovation. Broaden your vision to the Renault Espace.
Andrex Ultra is an advanced new kitchen towel. It comes in a one-roll pack, is almost twice as long as most other quality kitchen rolls, and is much more absorbent, as I'm about to demonstrate. Notice how quickly Andrex Ultra sucks up water compared with the other quality kitchen towel.
New Andrex Ultra, the thirstiest kitchen towel there is.
You gotta go, you better go.